Throughout my time campaigning and doing citizen journalism, I would always hear people talk about police informants, spies, grasses, undercover officers, and that type of thing. And whilst I obviously understand that you're going to get those types of people in any political campaign, I don't think I took it seriously enough, because I thought that people were just a little bit on the paranoid side. Now, that opinion has changed quite drastically after I've recently looked into SpyCops. In case people don't really know what the SpyCops inquiry is, it's an inquiry looking at undercover policing undertaken primarily by the Met, and it's looking into two divisions: the Special Demonstration Squad, which has since been disbanded, and another disbanded unit. Now, people will have heard about the women that the undercover police officers were having sex with and having children with. This is to do with SpyCops. Now, you may be thinking, well, even in the context of undercover policing, that's quite rare. Wrong. It's not rare. They were doing this all the time. This was just bog standard, acceptable behaviour. Now, in my view, and it probably will be controversial, these officers are sex offenders, because to have sex you have to consent. You don't just consent to the act, you consent to a set of circumstances. These women would not have consented to that sex. So these officers are no better than sex offenders, and like I say, in my view, are themselves sex offenders. And if people are thinking, oh well, they only spy on certain types of political groups, the left will be thinking we're targeted, the right will be thinking we're targeted. They're doing it to everybody. SpyCops did find, primarily, or has found so far, that they were spying on left-wing groups and that they weren't really spying on right-wing groups. Apparently they had other sources, so that suggests police informants. But look, at the end of the day, whatever people think the political status quo is, the state cares about itself, so the state will do whatever it needs to do to protect itself. It will spy on left-wing groups, it will spy on right-wing groups, it will spy on anything it perceives as being a threat to it. And it will just play people off against each other, but that's a slightly different topic. But then again, talking about spying on things it sees as a threat to it, talk about overreach, because now we're going to talk about the non-political causes that they were spying on. So, two cases, Ricky Reel and Stephen Lawrence. People will be aware of the Stephen Lawrence case. Ricky Reel, people may not be aware of. I didn't know about this case until I started researching SpyCops. Ricky Reel, from a very normal family, he goes out with his friends one night in London. He doesn't come back and he's found dead in suspicious circumstances. The police botch the case by effectively doing no work. They don't cordon off the area of the Thames where he was found. They don't send his clothes to forensics, but when the family pressed them, they put effort in to covering up the fact that they did nothing. It probably would have just been easier to do the work in the first place. But then they actually go one step further, because when the parents and the family start campaigning about this, they decide what we're going to do is we're going to send an undercover officer to spy on them, which I think is absolutely disgusting. They put no effort into solving the death whatsoever, but spent lots of time spying on the family and covering up the fact that they did no work. And ironically, one of the police officers they used was actually the same officer, or one of the same officers they sent to spy on Stephen Lawrence's family. Again, someone who died in terrible circumstances, and instead of really putting the work in, they just put work into corruption and send undercover officers to spy on the family. And they weren't even just recording things about the campaign. No, they even went further than that. They were recording things about their families, whether they were still in relationships, where they worked, friends, things like that. Things that they definitely should not have been recording. That was a complete overreach into their families' lives and into the lives of normal citizens. I just don't want other people to make the mistake I made, or younger campaigners or whatever, and just not be aware of the fact that you could be sandwiched in between two police officers. Because like I say, this isn't about you being in the wrong, it isn't about you doing anything that's illegal, it's about the state doing something that's wrong and you protecting yourself from the bad things that the state is doing and will do in the future.